I'm sure everyone here has seen at least one dramatic episode of a dramatic TV show located in a prison. But do you realize how much prisons can vary from place to place? According to a 2019 article titled U.S. Prison System Timeline, Chronology of Major Events, the federal prison was established in 1891, but prisons in our country have changed drastically since then, as well as other places. My interest in this topic started when I found the documentary Inside the World's Toughest Prisons on Netflix. This documentary focuses on the living conditions and stability of different prisons around the world. I chose to speak about this topic because I feel like it is something that isn't thought about too often, and it might amaze you how much prisons can differ from country to country. I also chose this topic because my dad is a detective and I've been surrounded by this all my life, so I find it really interesting. Understanding the medical assistance, control, and living conditions of prisons in the world over time can bring to light the issues as well as the benefits. A clean environment is essential to prevent disease in prisons. If the disease does happen to spread, medical assistance is the only way to overcome the sicknesses. In a prison in northeast India, the surveillance of HIV and tuberculosis are extremely high. Like most Asian countries, Indian prisons are overcrowded. In some prisons in India, the HIV-positive prisoners are housed alongside prisoners with tuberculosis. According to Bhatnagar, the prisons don't have the support or money to provide good health care to the inmates. According to Paul Connolly, the host of a 2018 documentary on corrupt prisons, a prison in the Philippines housed the inmates with tuberculosis together in one cell and did not provide them with any medicine to combat the disease. Connolly also brings to light the filth of a prison in Honduras. The inmates have no running water, so they put tissues that they have used after going to the bathroom in a bucket, and someone else has to carry them outside and empty it in a trash can. So the inmates are living and sleeping just feet away from human feces. Overall, cleanliness and medical assistance is the root of a healthy life for inmates in prisons all over the world. If you think living in filth is bad enough, imagine living in filth while being controlled by armed inmates. Control is what keeps a prison in line, prevents chaos, and avoids corruption. According to the prison timeline, the first maximum security prison, Alcatraz, was opened in 1934. This prison was controlled by armed guards who were highly trained. This prison would be considered really high-end when it comes to control. Netflix documentary Inside the World's Toughest Prisons scrapes the surface of control in a prison in Honduras called Danley Prison. This prison is watched over by only 15 guards compared to the 700 inmates. The guards are put under a significant amount of stress each day. They give control to the inmates and even provide them with weapons to control the ones underneath them. These inmates that are given control are considered pretty well behaved, but that doesn't mean you can trust them. After all, they are in prison. This is especially nerve-wracking because the guards recognize that at any moment their trusted inmates could easily start a riot. In Ukraine, Zhytomyr prison is another odd example of control. The prison is so poor and understaffed that the inmates are left to roam by themselves with no one watching over them. Ukraine has been in war for quite some time, so the country has not focused the economy on its prisons, which is understandable. Depending on the stability of the country and prison, control of the inmates can vary drastically. The only thing more concerning than control and health of prisons are the living conditions. The living conditions of prisons all over the world can often be compared to the living conditions of the country that the prison is located in. In Norway, Halden Prison might be thought of as the most humane prison there is. The inmates of Halden each have their own room that looks close to most hotel rooms in the United States. The guards of Halden Prison focus on the rehab and good morals instead of punishing the prisoners. The inmates of Halden even have their own grocery store to shop at. On the other side of the spectrum, an unnamed prison in the Philippines provides horrible living conditions for the inmates. In this prison, an example is 160 inmates were crowded into a cell that was built for only 24 people. The inmates in this prison can also be waiting trial for forever. This is due to the huge population of criminals in the Philippines and their unstable law enforcement. Danley Prison in Honduras also provides terrible living conditions for its inmates. The prison is so overcrowded and poor that the inmates are forced to find their own food. Some even eat rats for their meals. These three prisons were all visited by hosts of the world's toughest prisons and presented in the documentary. Overall, each prison talked about depends on the stability of its country's government and economy. Medical assistance, control of the prison, and living conditions of each prison can go from glorious to horrendous depending on the location. I hope that this speech informed you on the different types of prisons all over the world. Comparing the medical assistance control and living conditions of prisons in other countries to that of the United States really shows the benefits of our prisons. But it also shows how horrendous it can be in other prisons located in other countries. Becoming more educated on this topic really made me appreciate the life I live and how fortunate I am for the care, cozy bed, and protection I have.